What is up, everybody? We are back again with the transfer rumors of the week. Things are starting to heat up as the seasons are coming to an end. And first, we are going to start with João Pedro to Barcelona. I think it's a good transfer. Barcelona needs somebody to replace Lewandowski. Lewandowski has some transfer rumors of him going maybe to the MLS. I think he doesn't even need to drop down to that level. I think he's still a serviceable player. I think he can maybe go to the Serie A and have some sort of a stint there where he could be useful. But nevertheless, João Pedro, he is 24 years old. This current campaign for Chelsea, 32 league games played, 14 goals, 5 assists. Probably their best player of the entire season. Really the only spark. Esteban was a spark, but he got hurt and then hasn't really been playing as much. João Pedro has been playing amazing for Chelsea, has played all across that front line. He's played striker majority of the season. There's been times where he's played in behind the striker. He's played at left wing. Really a versatile player. I think it'd be a good transfer to Barcelona, mostly just because they need someone to, again, replace Lewandowski. Marcus Rashford probably isn't going to stay. He's still so young, and he's been now able to play for Watford, have a great season there. Brighton have a good couple seasons there. Again, played such different roles all across the front four. And now Chelsea hit the ground running instantly. It shows that he's an elite player, no matter what team he's on, no matter the circumstance, no matter if he's completely new to a squad. He can come in and take a starting position, be in the starting 11, and produce some sort of goal output. The only reason why I think it's good and not amazing, I don't overly rely on him as a scorer. I don't overly rely on him as an out-and-out striker. I don't know if that's his best position, and I don't think you can rely on him to be a 25 goals per season scorer, which a team like Barcelona is probably going to need. But I also am slightly worried about the fee just because Chelsea just bought him. He's on an insanely long contract. To sell him is going to be an insanely large fee, and to live up to a fee that's going to be probably in the range of 70 to 90 million euro. You're going to have to produce, and I think that is why I'm putting it in as good. Moving on next to Rafael Leão to Manchester United. I think it's just another good transfer. Rafael Leão, I think it is amazing. He's an amazing player. He's 26 years old. This current league campaign hasn't been his best. 26 league games, 9 goals, 3 assists. He's been playing in weirder roles. They've been playing in like a 3-5-2 at certain points where he's playing as a striker with Christian Pulisic. He's not really overly playing as a winger. He has some sort of character problems where he's constantly complaining when he's being subbed out, constantly arguing with his manager, which I obviously think is not a great thing, and I think a lot of Manchester United fans do not like that. They've had such big characters at Manchester United to the point where the last couple seasons you've seen them kick like Cristiano Ronaldo out the door for being a big character. And you could see that a lot of the fans and a lot of the managers just aren't into that type of thing. That's just not a thing in football anymore. If you're not for the team, if you're not going to work hard, you're probably not going to have a good spot in the team. But nevertheless, Rafael Leão is an elite player, elite dribbler, one-on-one. He could beat his defender. I am slightly confused of where they'd want him to play. He's not an out-and-out striker. Left wing's currently Cunha's position. Right wing's currently Mbuemo's position, and Leão doesn't play right wing anyway. So he'd be coming in competing with Cunha, who you just, again, purchased for 70 or 80 million euro. So I think, again, competition's good, but spending probably 70 million euro on Leão to either be a backup or basically spending 70 million euro on Cunha to be a backup isn't what you'd want. So I don't know if Cunha would maybe go and change his role to an out-and-out striker position, which he's done a couple times at Wolves, not to the highest standard. Because Bruno Fernandes is locked in at that 10, unless this is maybe some sort of inkling that maybe Bruno Fernandes leaves, but I don't see why Manchester United would want that, and I don't, in the press, that's not what Bruno Fernandes is saying. He's saying he wants to stay there and win. So all in all, I think it's a good transfer just because Rafael is a good player, and I think he can go there and produce at least double-digit goals and assists in his first season, at least like 10 goals, 4 assists. Moving on next, Julian Alvarez to Arsenal rumors. I think this would be an amazing transfer. Julian Alvarez is 26 years old, not his currently best league campaign, 29 league games, 8 goals, 4 assists. But in the Champions League this season, he currently has 14 Champions League games, 10 goals, 5 assists. We just watched Atletico versus Arsenal. And, although Julian Alvarez didn't score, he was the biggest spark on the team. He was the threat every single moment going forward, constantly trying to get shots off on goal. His technical ability, his striking ability is just such an elite level. He's had time in Manchester City, so he was pretty successful there. It shows that he can do it in the Premier League, which is, a thing you want when you're buying players for probably a realistically high fee, probably somewhere in the 80 to 100 million euro range. I think it's just such a good transfer because this is what Arsenal is lacking. They are lacking somebody with the striking ability, the technical ability, the threat, the thought process of I just want to get an inch of space and get a shot on target. They don't really have that in the team right now other than Gyökeres, but he hasn't been able to create that space for himself. And then Eze still kind of has that in him where he's trying to always get an inch of space and either get a shot off or, some through ball in behind. But, Odegaard isn't doing that. Saka's kind of losing it, but Julian Alvarez isn't playing in that position. But Declan Rice in the midfield isn't really doing that. There's nobody in that midfield because I'm assuming Julian Alvarez will kind of take that Odegaard role where he's an 8, but he's kind of mostly a 10. And I think if you have Julian Alvarez as a 10 on your team, where he's able to play off the striker, play off of Gyökeres, and then just get second chance balls, get shots on target. You saw that with him and Erling Haaland. It was very, very lethal. So I think this would be an amazing transfer. Moving on to Real Madrid, Jose Mourinho to Real Madrid. I'm just going to say don't do it. So I watch a lot of Benfica games. I love Mourinho. I think he's one of the best characters in football ever. He hasn't looked overly impressive at Benfica, and if you look at their league position, they're now currently in second. Sporting is kind of choking their second place position, and Mourinho hasn't lost a game in the league. But this is down to just the quality of the players at Benfica. They've spent so much money. Most of the Portuguese league can't compete with that, other than Porto and Sporting. And when he goes up against the big teams like Porto, Braga, Sporting, he doesn't really win. He just won against Sporting. Benfica didn't look amazing in that game, and they won in the 92nd minute. So he just hasn't. His tactics haven't looked amazing. For most of the season, he was playing a 4-2-3-1, where there was basically zero build-up through the midfield. It was mostly build-up through the wings, where Otamendi would pass it out to the left back Dahl or the right back Ba/Dedic, and basically they would get pressed, and the entire thought process was you'd play a ball into your winger with the defender on his back, and you're hoping he could play a one-time ball into the midfielder, and then you can kind of basically switch the play to the opposite side. But it just really wasn't working. So most of the games for the maybe 70%, 80% of the season was just basically no build-up, no way of really controlling the game, but just winning because the players were better. These last 3 or 4 games, Alvarez, one of their most intelligent players that seems like Jose Mourinho really relies on, he's come back, and now they're playing basically a 4-3-3, and they've looked a little more dominant in those games. They've been able to build the ball up more through the midfield because Alvarez is being able to drop into these positions where he knows there will be space, and he's just such a smart player. But having basically all of your tactics rely on one player being there or not, and when he's not, your team that costs probably 100 times more than every other team in your league, other than, again, Porto and Sporting, and not being able to dominate them, it's very worrying. I just think, he might not have it anymore. I think he'll be able, at least not at the highest level of Real Madrid. I think he could still, I think the second season at Benfica coming, he'll be able to do well, maybe even win it. But it's concerning. The only thing I could really see that they would want Mourinho for is just the man management. A lot of Xabi Alonso getting fired because the players don't like him and the players are revolting. I think Mourinho would be able to hone that in and really control that squad. But other than that, I'm just going to say don't do it. Moving on next is Bernardo Silva to Barcelona. I think it is a good transfer. I think it's a decent transfer. He's 31 years old, currently 33 games played for in the Premier League, and 2 goals, 4 assists. He's not really in that position now to go out week in and week in and try to go out and score and assist. That's not really his role for the team. He's basically playing the 8. He's basically playing like Declan Rice's role, where he's the 8. He's kind of trying to progress the play, be there to help Rodri defensively, work really hard, track back, but always retain the ball, never make a bad pass, and never make the wrong decision, which is what Bernardo Silva thrives in. And then just, sometimes make a late run into the box and score a goal or get a timely assist. Just a very technical player. I think this would just be good either depth for Barcelona or just somebody that would, maybe make it into the starting 11. And again, you'll never sit there thinking, wow, Bernardo Silva really took over that game and scored a goal and assist when we needed it. But you'll never think he stepped the foot out of place. He'll always make the correct pass, he'll always be in the right position. And that's really, really important, especially for a team like Barcelona when you're challenging for everything and you need bodies and you need smart players to come in. So I think Bernardo Silva is a decent transfer. Moving on next is Alisson to Juventus. I think Alisson to Juventus is a good transfer. He's 33 years old. He currently, has been injured. Liverpool has Mama Divashelli. Sorry, I always can't pronounce that name, but as a backup, and they purchased him a year ago. You were assuming they bought him to eventually take over Alisson's role. It's looking like that might happen. I think Alisson's still one of the top goalies in the entire world. He plays at such a high level. He's so great on the ball, such a great shot stopper. I think, it's slightly a thing where his age might be getting up there, and Liverpool are trying to maybe get off him early before he maybe leaves on a free transfer in 2027. And you have already the backup that you wanted. This is who you signed. So in Divashelli. So I think it's a good transfer. I don't think it's an amazing transfer solely just because Juventus have a good goalie right now. Michel De Gregorio has been there for 2 seasons, and he's played decently well. He hasn't really been a sore spot for the team. He's been decent on the ball. He's made good saves. I don't think they need to replace him. And Michel is still young. I think he's like 27, 28. So I think there was still time for maybe Michel De Gregorio to be the starting goalie for Juventus for maybe another 3-4 years, and you wouldn't have to worry about that position. But I will never say no to getting in more talent and getting in better talent, even if they're older. Maybe De Gregorio can sit behind Alisson for a year or two and learn and, just watch while Alisson is, obviously a better goalie, and he can help Juventus maybe reach new heights that they haven't been able to reach in the last couple seasons. So I think it's a good transfer. Moving on next is Malik Tillman to Bournemouth. Malik Tillman is 23 years old, 26 appearances this season in the league, 6 goals. He really hasn't been having a good season for Bayer Leverkusen, but prior to coming to Bayer Leverkusen, he had 2 good seasons at PSV, where I think his final season at PSV, he had 26 games and I think 12 goals in the league, which is really a good return. I think he was like 21, 22 at that time. He's a young American man, and he plays all across the front line. He plays at the 10, he plays at the left wing, he plays at the right wing. He's really a good versatile player, and he works really hard. He has decent striking ability, decent technical ability when he's inside the box. And I think this is just such a classic Bournemouth move where you go and you buy somebody young who's maybe coming off of a bad season, so the value for Malik Tillman's a lot lower, and you're able to buy somebody that has 1 bad season, but prior to that has had 2 really amazing seasons at PSV, and you can get him on the cheap, and he can come in and he either hits the ground running or just, is a really good depth piece where he's able to come in and play meaningful minutes for 30 minutes and just, provide some sort of spark. Or he just doesn't, if he doesn't do amazingly well, you probably didn't purchase him for that much money, and he's still young. He's 25. He'll be in 2 or 3 years, 25, 26, and everyone will still kind of think, okay, well, he had good seasons at PSV. He's a technical player. Maybe he didn't kill it in the Premier League, but that's difficult. We'll still purchase him for maybe 80% of the value that Bournemouth purchased him. So it's really a win-win. I think either he's a decent player and he comes in and is able to provide like maybe 5 goals, 5 assists for Bournemouth every season, or if he doesn't hit the ground running, you sell him back for 80% of what you paid, and it's not a bad move. Moving on next is Frank Lampard to Chelsea. I'm just going to say it's unrealistic. I think he would maybe do it, but he's done it twice now. It always ends up with him losing his position and then having to go and find his own project and start from the ground up, which is, as a manager, not easy to do and very, very tedious, very, very annoying. You kind of lose your first season in most projects because you need to get in the players you want. You need to get them to start playing how you'd like. So I can't imagine him just going to Coventry, having the season that they just had where they just won the championship, they're getting promoted, and not at least giving it a year or two there, trying to build something, trying to get more experience under his belt, and trying to have more leverage. Because in this position right now, Frank Lampard to Chelsea, he has no leverage. He's coming from the championship, and they're basically jingling the keys in front of him, saying, "Hey, you can come to a top 6 side with infinite resources, but we don't really respect you, and we've already given you this position 2 times, and we'll fire you again if we need to." Or you could stay at Coventry, maybe do another season or 2, stay up in the Prem, maybe the second season in the Prem, finish in the top 12. And now more clubs are looking at you with more respect, and maybe you can move to a team outside of England, or like a Juve or a team like Inter or something, where you have more respect and you have more control over your situation. Because with Chelsea, Frank Lampard has no control over that situation, especially right now. And moving on finally is Enzo Fernandez to Real Madrid. You've seen the rumors of him talking about how he would love to move to Spain, Real Madrid. I'm sure he would love to go to Barcelona. I just think it's unrealistic. The amount that Chelsea paid for Enzo Fernandez from Benfica was like, what, close to 100 million euro. He's one of their most important players. Even though he doesn't always have the best output, I think this season he's had a pretty good output in terms of goals and assists. He's really such a hard worker. He has a pretty good relationship with Caicedo in the midfield, and he's their captain. He's one of their captains, and everything about him right now is what Chelsea needs. He's a bar setter. He's a level setter. He's the reason why they were able to win the Club World Cup and he's trying to bring Chelsea to new heights. And I think currently with their transfer policy of just signing anybody who's under the age of 23 and trying to get him in, it's not really Enzo Fernandez's fault. The type of season that Chelsea's starting to have towards the end of the season, where they're probably not going to get Champions League football. He is the type of player that they need to be signing. Someone in their mid-20, like 25, 26, 27, coming into their prime and actually has proven it on large scales. I think to sell him to Real Madrid would be very difficult because he's one of their best players. He is what Chelsea fans think of when they think of Chelsea right now. They think of Enzo, they think of Cole Palmer. Selling him to Real Madrid would be difficult. The fee would be astronomical because of Enzo's contract. And when you think of Real Madrid right now, you don't currently think of them overly signing super expensive players in terms of like 100 million euros. That was a thing years ago with Bale and with Ronaldo, et cetera, et cetera. But currently you kind of think of them of just getting good bargains and getting a lot of players on transfer because of their pull power. On a free, they got, Mbappe on a free. They got Trent Alexander-Arnold on a free. They kind of have this pull now where they're able to attract. They've been talking about getting Konate on a free for years. They seem like they've kind of moved away from the 100 million euro signings to kind of smart signings like 50 million euro for Dean Heisen, who's young, and then getting the frees like Trent and Kylian Mbappe to really round out the squad. So I just can't see something like Real Madrid spending 120 million euro on Enzo. I can only see them do that on just a player again, like Gareth Bale or Real Madrid, that would really change the entire trajectory of the team. So these are the current transfer rumors of the week. Let me know what you guys think. I really want to hear your opinion on Jose Mourinho. I'm such a fan, but currently I just don't think he still has it to go to Real Madrid. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you.